Welcome to Bear Download. I'm Rich Campbell along with Dan Wiederer here at Hallis Hall on Wednesdays. The Bears are getting ready for reunion week, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Coach Lovie Smith, quarterback Josh McCown. Dan, heard from both of those guys on the teleconference this morning. Let's talk about Josh McCown and his stint in Tampa Bay has gotten off to a rocky start, and the Bears also haven't been able to duplicate that synergy in the quarterback room that he had last year with Jay Cutler. What do you make of McCown's start in Tampa?
Yeah, no question. I think you look at the results and you say this is not anywhere where Josh expected it to be, where the Buccaneers expected it to be. He had the thumb injury that kept him out of the lineup for more than a month. Obviously, and he admitted today, what I thought was interesting on the conference call is that early on in the season that he was pressing too much and identified that fine line between wanting to do well and pressing to do well. And I think that's an interesting concept for a guy who last year had very little pressure when he came in to relieve Jay Cutler. He was a starter. There wasn't a lot expected of him. The success that he had was sort of all gravy. And then you sign that contract. You sign a $10 million contract, and there's these expectations. There's the pressure that comes with that. And then there's the responsibility of leading an entire offense. And Josh basically saying he wanted everything to go perfectly, and it didn't, and he pressed a little too hard. You know, they're 2-8 right now. He feels like he's eased up a little bit the last 2 weeks since coming back from the injury. We'll see how that pays off when they come to Soldier Field on Sunday.
Right. Part of it was a bit of bad fortune. Their offensive coordinator, Jeff Tedford, suffered a heart condition problem, not able to fill his role. And so Marcus Arroyo has been the play caller there. And Josh McCown talked about how he had to develop some confidence in the play calling there and really develop a trust that you might take for granted otherwise, but I think that was a very disruptive situation.
No question. And then I think you also referenced the synergy between Cutler and McCown a year ago, and I think both players missed that to some extent, and it's hard to replicate. And it's a situation where when you have that bond with a coworker, we know it, you start to work well off one of another, and when it gets disrupted, it's hard to recreate that with someone new. There's a build-up in a new relationship, and you don't necessarily have that same trust in the guy you're working with immediately, and there's a lot of things that maybe sort of become loose ends that weren't loose ends before.
Right. We heard examples last season of Jay coming back to the sideline either after a bad play or a misread or something, and Josh being a calming influence, using some of that experience to make sure that Jay was right, you know, mentally and emotionally, and from an execution standpoint. Mark Trestman went out of his way today to say that Jimmy Clausen is the backup now, has developed this type of relationship with Jay. It's improving, but Josh has a personality that makes all of his relationships special, and you don't want to get too touchy-feely about the whole thing, but this is a fact. He's unanimously respected for his leadership and his selflessness in this locker room. You saw how it affected Jay Cutler last season, and I think overall everybody would acknowledge that his presence is missed to some extent.
No question. And I think just having that guy next to you, whether it's Jay for Josh or Josh for Jay, because they both did it for one another a year ago, it keeps you focused on the details of what you need to get done on a day-by-day basis. And it can be very small things, but they can make big difference when it shows up on Sundays. We've seen that for both players. We'll see if they're able to recreate that with someone new going forward after the breakup, if you want to call it, as Josh goes to Tampa and Jay stays here for the long haul.
All I'll say is that if the Tampa Tribune offers you a new mega
contract, well, if they offer me $10 million, I'm out of here.
I'm going to make sure the Trib here backs you up and supports this partnership we have going right now. All right, for Dan Wiederer, I'm Rich Campbell. That'll do it for this edition of Bear Download.